I think prospects considering Canix should know that your team is incredible. The Canix team is top-notch. It doesn't feel like a vendor-customer relationship whatsoever. It feels like you guys are true partners in this with us. When we have ideas or suggestions on things that you could improve on or would make our lives easier, you listen, take notes, and deliver. My name's Kat. I currently work in IT infrastructure, but I've been with Cresco for over 10 years now, so I have done many different roles in the past 10 years, starting with sales and then moving into technology in an effort to try and bridge the gap between technology and wholesale operations.
I'm TJ. I've been with Cresco for coming up on 6 years. I am in the operations side, started off in continuous improvement and then have been focused on operations and kind of work with the IT team closely, especially with Canix.
Cresco is a publicly traded, multi-state, vertically integrated cannabis operator. Started out in 2015 here in Illinois with 3 licenses to grow, process, and distribute cannabis products, and that's quickly scaled to, I want to say we're in 8 different markets right now.
We first got introduced to Canix, I think back in 2022 when we were piloting it in our Ohio market. We use it across all of our operational facilities, and that is kind of all of our seed to sale interfacing users. The primary users is all on the wholesale side. That is going to be our cultivation agents, the lead to manager level employees for most of our wholesale facilities. So cultivation, post-harvest, manufacturing, packaging, logistics.
And then we have a lot of corporate users that are going in there too. Our finance team is, exporting data directly from Canix and putting into the cost models. And that's where that normalization of data in Canix versus those disparate seed to sale systems becomes really valuable. Prior to Canix, the process was very manual across our operations facilities. A lot of spreadsheets,
a lot of paperwork,
paper, physical checklists on clipboards, right? So a lot of hand scanners that led to spreadsheets. That was about as technologically advanced as it was in some regards, mostly due to the limitations of the traceability systems mandated by the various state regulators. So it was arduous, to say the least.
Before Canix, we primarily interacted with the state compliance systems directly.
And that's operationally complex because the same traceability system is in 2 different markets. They could have very different requirements based on the regulations in those markets. The independent traceability systems, after you've exported this data, you're now having to manipulate it to normalize it to some kind of a standard. And oftentimes there was data that you didn't have in that report that then you had to go in, find somewhere else and backfill. So it was a lot of just formatting and, grunt work in Excel to try and get some kind of consistency in those reports. Whereas with Canix, all of our facilities, when you run a report, you're getting that same consistent report every time.
When you need to export data from multiple licenses in one market, you can do that in one step in Canix versus having to go independently to each license.
Because we have like 16 licenses in some of these markets, and having to run the same report 16 times, right? It's just time consuming. So it saves a lot of time for folks that are looking at that high level data from having to aggregate all of it before they can actually do something meaningful with it. I think the worst part of the process would have had to have been end of month and end of quarter reconciliations. It was a Herculean effort with each system being completely unique.
But in terms of like overall data capture, we are able to use the data coming from Canix to replace dual entry that we were doing before utilizing it.
So before, we're counting on people to manually enter harvest-related data into a spreadsheet to make predictions about manufacturing outputs, etc. If that was wrong, then, you know, one human error on the keyboard could lead to a complete change of product availability down the road. So having it be accurate has just led to more consistency, I think. For compliance-related situations, when we need to do chain of custody and any kind of investigative work to figure out what happened, what went wrong, it's a lot easier to do that with Canix than it is native in the metric or traceability system. When finance folks would find discrepancies, variances in reports that they couldn't explain coming from the traceability system, they had no way themselves to go in and try and self-serve to figure out what could have happened. With Canix, we can have them have access without having to be badged, and they can go in there and look at the activity logs and the history and the parent packages and connect those dots, meaning less people have to get involved when there's something not looking right in order to get it figured out. With Canix, we have a greater control over the hygiene of our master data when it comes to strains, SKUs, or items, making it just far easier to normalize across markets. It's hard to quantify the dollar value on that, right? How much time was being spent. I don't know that anybody ever sat down with a stopwatch to say how long did it take to do an end of quarter reconciliation with Canix and before Canix, but you definitely see it in, you know, people's smiles when they're not just miserable.
It's setting the standards, right? And getting back to the idea of like continuous improvement, like it's just a base process, and it's like once we set that standard, then we can improve upon it. So like this has really helped set the foundation for that.
Streamlined so many different things for us that used to be just chaotic and challenging and frustrating. From day-to-day operations, you know, you go to a facility, creating a manifest in 2 clicks versus sifting through rooms to find the packages that you want, to bring them into another vault, to then generate it's made our day-to-day users at our production facilities' lives inherently easier. It's made at a corporate level everybody's life's easier in the sense that it's all normalized, one platform, and there's not this hiding things in the trace system and we have to go find them. It's all accessible to everybody, badge or no badge. Yes, absolutely, the investment in Canix has been worth it.